Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Medical Innovation and Enterprise BSc Taster session. And I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us today. So, my name is Georgia Gerarda Petri, and I am a current Medical Innovation and Enterprise student here at UCL, and I'll be your chair this afternoon. So, we're hoping that this taster session will address those course specific questions you may have and will help you to gain an insight into what it's really like to study on our Medical Innovation and Enterprise undergraduate program. So this afternoon, our speaker lecturer, she's also a teaching lecturer, Amy Lee, will introduce you to some of the science and medicine that you will learn as a student of Medical Innovation and Enterprise here at UCL. So Dr. Lee will also provide a summary of the Medical Innovation and Enterprise program, and there will be a Q&A session for the second part of the event. So this session is being recorded and will be made available on our website following today's event. And we're here to respond to your questions, so please share those using the Q&A function on Zoom throughout the session. So now to introduce our speaker, we have Dr. Amy Lee, who is a lecturer in teaching on the Medical Innovation and Enterprise program at UCL. So she has a passion for learning, exploring, researching, and teaching in the interdisciplinary field of biomedical and tissue engineering, especially in the area of nanomedicine and developing a new type of material for the next generation implants. She's also in business innovation and entrepreneurship and into developing new ideas that can be a benefit to society. She's also a fellow in the Higher Education Academy. So over to you, Dr. Lee, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Georgia, for this very nice introduction, and thank you everyone for coming today. So I'm going to share my slides now. Can you all see my slides? Can everyone see it?
I can see them.
Okay, brilliant. And thank you for the nice intro. So as Georgia said, my name is Amy. I'm the Year 1 lead and careers lead for Medical Innovation Enterprise. So it's my pleasure today to introduce you with this course and going through some aspects of this course, hopefully providing you more understanding as well as aspirations of why you would be a suitable candidate for your future development. So by the end of this session, I would like to give a brief intro about the course. It's a BSc or MSci course, depends on the route you apply in, and what is the need of this course, and how do students benefit from the course over the years, as well as the need for commercialization of medical innovation translation. And then also we will be entering a Q&A session where you can ask anything relevant to the course to us. And then in terms of, we also talk about the events we hosted in the past over the years and how we tailor those events to the student development, as well as how we support careers. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a lecturer in teaching, and there's a difference between lecturing research as well as teaching. So I'm more into looking at specific pedagogy of teaching of my aspect of medical innovation. And then in terms of also what I do, I'm a Year 1 lead. I teach Medical Innovation Enterprise 1 module. I will talk about that in a bit. And also I'm the careers lead. I help students to tailor their specific aspiration, application, as well as development over the years in terms of providing opportunities for internships and collaborations to industries. And I'm a fellow for Higher Education Academy, and also I work in the Department of Surgical Biotechnology within Division of Surgery, and that's under the umbrella of Medical Sciences. So I'm also an entrepreneur myself. So over the years, I had a few ideas in terms of medtech, from intracranial stent to edtech startup, such as currently I'm developing a research teaching platform called LabNote. So if you're interested about, medical technology, translation, or anything relates to even AI and edutech, we can also talk about that as well. So in terms of research activity, so my research activity are focused on specifically bone resorbing cells, osteoclast, and then how those bone resorbing cells affect bone remodeling process. So that is how osteoclast, bone resorbing cells, and osteoblast, bone formation or bone forming cells interact together to form a healthy bone remodeling environment. By understanding those environments, we'll be able to come up with new tissue engineering materials, such as in this case, we have the materials called bioactive glass for bone implant. And during my research, I was able to isolate a cell line that mimics the primary cells, which can reduce a lot of ethical concerns when they're dealing with using animals in research. And also currently we're developing a bone resorption assay that would be ready for commercialization. So we work with different teams that during my research. Currently, I'm also working on an electron spin fiber platform that releases a drug for melanoma for melanoma patients, as well as we have multidisciplinary teams within the divisions and the wider UCL. So as I spoke about myself already, I want to ask you, because we are a medical innovation enterprise course, I want to ask you, what do you think about the current challenges? And then what do you think about the solutions, if we have any, that so far in terms of as a global aspect of it? Can we have some answers from our chat? So we give you 1 minute. Maybe you can think about what are the biggest challenges we have so far for our healthcare system. Anyone want to respond? I don't know if I'm able to see the chat. Okay, let's see. NHS is struggling with the amount of patients and needing care. Exactly, reducing the spread of diseases and infection. Exactly, that's antimicrobial resistance as a big issue out there. Anyone has any more? Ensuring the delivery of quality healthcare to all patients. Exactly, healthcare staff shortage, inequality. Exactly, very good. Creating accessible technology which people are knowledgeable about how to use, which are also affordable. Any more? That's very good in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Yes, so we are right on the spot, hit now. So healthcare system definitely shortage of the healthcare staff, inequality, especially for marginalized group of people. That's a big thing. Infectious disease, microbial resistance, or using of antibiotics and development of new antibiotics. That's also an issue. Chronic diseases such as diabetics, heart diseases, as well as cancer, mental health issues within the society because of the also healthcare worker having a lot of mental health issues associated with high pressure, the work environment they are associated with. So those other areas associated with external factors such as environmental pollution, as well as climate change. So those other areas that many of you already understood about and aware about that outside in the global level. So then it's about how we could tackle it. What are the techniques or advancement out there we can use it for helping the society? So as we know all those challenges that in a global level, what about the biggest killer in the UK? Anyone want to say anything in your chat? Anyone responses? COVID and infections, cancer, I guess. What is CHD? Is it heart disease? What is it? I think we have an abbreviation there. Any more? Yep. Okay. Exactly. I think we all kind of aware of what the societal issues out there. So one of the biggest issue actually is dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Unfortunately, or about a lot of Alzheimer's disease, translational therapies. I would say none of it currently that has surpassed the clinical trial stage 2, stage 3, which is a concerning aspect of development. And then in terms of research, there is still a lot of gaps in terms of understanding the molecular mechanisms of Alzheimer's disease. That's what we also need to think about and develop new intervention for. Heart disease, like you said, as well as lung cancer, stroke, all very dominant issues for the society. And then you talked about COVID, emerging strains of COVID, tackling those prevention measures. They all very, very aspect of a societal issue that waiting for us to tackle, as well as cancer. There are different types of cancer, such as lung cancers accounts for a lot of death, as well as breast cancer, prostate cancer. So a lot of researchers around us, they have expertise in those cancer research. And then depends on, we'll talk about the curriculum in a bit, depends on the areas of your interest. You will be able to learn those physiological level as well as cellular levels of those mechanisms in order to understand a specific research area and tackling and coming up with new innovations. So challenges for an aging population, people living longer, and means that a more complex healthcare issue they would have. And means that implant would fail because implant does not design to last for a lifetime. They would fail. People would means that they would need multiple implants in their lifetime, and depends on their level of mobility as well. So, and current approaches for addressing aging is also at its infancy. People coming up with different pathways or molecular pathways for understanding the mechanisms underlying specific type of aging processes, but there is no holistic approach or a systematic approach of solving these issues. That's from a management, health management aspect to disease aspect. So we need to have a more rounded systematic approach in terms of managing aging for patients. So the solution, again, that there's no silver bullet for this. We need to come up with specific multifaceted strategy that needs experts in their field, experts understanding the healthcare system, expert understanding the clinical areas, as well as researchers and entrepreneurs. So those people have to work together in order to come up with those strategies. And then externally, we also need to work together with government policy making, and also even, people that's raising the public awareness involving patient and public group in order to tackle those problems. So this is one of the report that recently came up from Forbes, the website, which are the 10 biggest trends that's revolutionizing the healthcare. As we probably already aware, large language model Gen AI is one of very big things that has been developing or evolving very, very fast. So we want to use those models, be able to use those large language models in the new development of health technology or med technology. Telemedicine is where they would be able to have, a virtual operation room, such as all virtual clinics that'll be able to interact with experts around the globe. And then wearable health technology, people are are more and more people using those technologies, such as Fitbit or watches that monitors health vital signs. Those are very important in terms of understanding patient-specific need, as well as it also leads to issue with data privacy as well. So that's why people has developed the blockchain that decentralizes those data privacy issues. And then personalized care, personalized printing of implants, such as using 3D printing, robotic surgery that allows better manual dexterity, as well as using AR for training, augmented reality for training that enhances, the training that we will be able to provide it in order to educate for the upcoming clinicians. Also reduces a lot of inefficiency in using of the resources during the training. Okay, so there are 3 elements of this course: entrepreneurship, medical innovation, and creativity. So I'll be dealing into those 3 elements that provide you with a picture of what it's like to be a student at Medical Innovation Enterprise. First of all, we want to introduce you with this term called value of death. So value of death, there are 2 folds of it. First of all, is about a lot of innovations, a lot of inventions are, just sitting on the shelf of technology transfer office. They never get translated. As what we experienced during COVID, that if a technology doesn't get translated, commercialized, people will never be able to use it. And that's kind of, adding into the crisis of the healthcare system. So we want to be able to understand how we can translate those crises. If we don't, those technology will die, hence value of death. On top of that, there is actually statistics about normally for any type of company, it doesn't matter if a medtech or any specific type of company outside medtech, those companies wouldn't survive after 2 years. So 80% of those companies fail to survive. So there is a value of death in terms of commercialization, even for any type of company. And this actually provides, or it will have a more significant impact to medtech company if you don't understand this translation pathway, because medtech company depends on the type of technology. Already people would be attracting a lot of investment. In terms of the investment, on top of that would be regulations, as well as IP law on top of that, protecting those innovations. So if people doesn't know how to navigate that landscape, there will be also value of death for those companies. Means that a lot of money normally are sponsored at early stage by the government or the grants by the society that will come to the waste. So it's very important to understand how to navigate the value of death. And then here I will give you a more a breakdown step of how to navigate value of death, which means that at the early stage, we need to have a team that's capable of understanding technology, have a team that's understanding the business, and also a clinical team that understanding the clinical need. So we're building up this team. And then on top of that, we need to have commercial strategy and intellectual property strategy, because by having those strategy, we'll be able to protect our ideas, because we want to attract funding in order to progress our idea. And that's important to protect our idea in that way. Otherwise, we won't be able to attract those investment at early stage. And then regulatory pathway, what type of technology? There are different regulatory pathway between regulatory bodies such as MHRA in the UK, EMA in the Europe, FDA in the US. So that's also an area of understanding. On top of that, we also have the healthcare system in the UK, for example, National Healthcare Services, NHS, which they have their adoption priorities. So we need to understand their priority, how they calculate the effectiveness in certain treatment. As you can see, those areas will adding the complexity of translation. Hence, if we don't navigate those areas well, the company will facing the value of death. And then on top of that, not just speaking with the buyer, also we need to talk to the patient. So the patient not necessarily, for example, in the NHS, not necessarily is the one that pay for the treatment, but also would be the one that use the treatment. So it's very important to understand how their experiences feed back into this circle. So how to understand IP law, intellectual property law? So we provide IP law, intellectual property law. So we provide a few sessions with Sir Robin Jacob. So Robin Jacob is a judge from the High Court in England and Wales, and where he is specializing in innovation law. So he will help students to understand how to navigate IP and patent landscape, as well as coming up ways to real case debating processes during the IP, judgment. By providing those aspects of expertise, hopefully the student would be able to understand well on when they have their own idea how to progress onto those stages. And then in terms of the business aspect, we have School of Management. I think in terms of Georgia, I think you have done a few modules from the School of Management. I don't know, are you able to say a little bit about how School of Management plays a part in this?
Yeah, so in first year, we don't really have anything with the School of Management. It's more introduced in second year, where we have two modules. And then you can also choose more optional modules if you like. So it's very flexible. It can be as much of the School of Management as you want it to be. So two modules, or you can even have four. So I personally just did the two compulsory ones. So the first one is in first term, and it gives you a really good background in like kind of if you've never done business anything like related to business before, it's a good introduction, and although it brings you in slowly, they prepare you really well for the courseworks. And I mean, it's at least for me, it was quite a big learning curve. Like, I'm not going to say it was super easy because I've never done anything to do with business before, but they were so helpful. They really guided me, and I was able to like actually do well in the end, which is good. And then the second term is a lot more of it's more creative side of business. So, and it's more up to you as an individual. Like, you can tailor, you get to choose which company you want to work on. It's really interesting, especially because like I got to choose a startup in medtech. So it was, although it was very a business module, I managed to bring it in really well, and all of my peers as well managed to bring it in really well with MIE. And they're really enjoyable modules. I like them a lot.
Thank you, Georgia, and that's great to know about it. So like Georgia said, if you want to do more science, and that you have options, two options for your second year, three options for your third year, you can choose more science facing. If you want to explore more in terms of management as business as well as business, then you can choose those options on top of that. Depends on which route you want to go. So UCL has really big collaborations with this UCL Technology Fund, which is specifically expertise in advanced therapeutic medicinal products. That's hence a lot of companies that are coming out from UCL as cell and gene therapy companies. A lot of companies that went into IPO stage as well as acquired by bigger companies. So we also have people that from UCL business that dealing specifically with companies that with those remits that coming to talk to us about how they back up with innovations from UCL. So students learn from the direct point of contact from UCLB experts. So from MIE over the years, we build in specific companies. So we want students to expose to companies or startup companies at different stages of the medtech innovation space. So at the first year medical innovation enterprise, we have this company showcase where we introduce those company, and student has to write a business analytical report as well as engage in a customer facing presentation. On the third year, the student has to come up with their own business plan as well as their own pitch. So if you do a fourth year MSci for the medical innovation enterprise, where you will be able to work with a company on a consultancy project for 300 hours with some of those companies that we already set up collaboration with. So, and we really want to build in those practical aspects as well as building in the real world aspect for you to learn and to prepare yourself in terms of development into that space. Another areas that's blooming is the artificial intelligence area. So there's a Center for Advanced Artificial Intelligence at UCL. So students will be able to think about how they develop digital healthcare, specifically with the use of AI, which is a fast growing aspect. And then with the scientists that works in computer sciences, specifically for healthcare enabled AI. And in terms of medical innovation, I will now talk about a little bit on the expertise of the division. So the division has a very strong research focus in tissue engineering as well as nanomedicine and biomaterials. So what does it mean? Is that we want to develop better biomaterials. The ideas for developing better material is people are aging, as what we just pointed out earlier of this talk, as well as implant are failing. So there is a very high failure rate of orthopedic implants. It's shockingly around 24% over 7 years. And that's the type of implant that's currently used by our healthcare system. And then we want to overcome that. We want to come up with new materials that enables crosstalk between the cells in the body in order to, having a material that would last longer or implant that would last longer. And then organ failure is a big thing. And then there's a long waiting list of people who need organs. And the problem with that is that, when we have organ transplant, it's not about the immune rejection. It's a lot of time about the immunosuppressant those people are taking, and there's no advancement on those areas either. And then in terms of what actually people can get into, artificial organs, it still need to be improved. So at the moment, we only have, a simple type of organ such as bladder or some of the bone replacement that would be able to replace in the body. However, more advanced or complex organ, people still face challenge of synthesizing those. So therefore, there's a big challenge in terms of organ shortage. So people still rely on the traditional methods of organ transplant. And then in terms of tissue engineering, we want to overcome some of this. However, we're facing a lot of barriers. For example, there are 2 ways of engineering the tissue and then be able to transplant to the patients. The traditional way or the conventional way is that culturing, the tissue engineering products combining with, such as the scaffold, which is the biomaterial, combining with the cells, combining with the factor that specifically interact with a certain microenvironment of that tissue engineered construct, together with the manufacturing as well as with the clinical practices. So it has been always those aspects has been always challenges of translating those. Therefore, the second approach is more in situ approach. Hopefully, by using the in situ approach, we'll be able to make the scaffold and that ready to use in the clinical setting or operational room, that using the body as an incubator to grow those, implants that integrates into the body. So there are 2 approaches, as I mentioned. So which one would be lead into the most desirable outcome is a question for the researcher as well. Whole organ tissue engineering, as I mentioned, it faces big challenges out there. People are trying to address those challenges. And then in terms of the media, people are, we are hearing different stories from the media about whole organ tissue engineering. As I also mentioned, that depends on the type of tissue, complexity of the tissue, and then also there is a bigger factor in terms of the vascularization of the tissue that makes the whole organ tissue engineering, which become a little bit impossible at the current status. We are trying to overcome these issues, and that's why researchers are working together in this field to improve and to bridge the gap. Nanoparticle targeted drug delivery. And that's another areas that would hopefully enhance, the efficiency of the drugs and use. And that efficiency means that the, less drug will be used and more targeted therapy. So in this case, why we're using nanoparticle is that because of the cell receptor, they are nano size, and because of the surface and volume ratio of that nanoparticle that will be enable the nanoparticle to interact with the cells in the body more effectively. However, we also facing challenges of how those delivery of the nanoparticles, because of the external environment of the nanoparticles are embedded in, such as the serum in the body of the patient. So those serum would mask the nanoparticles in terms of a corona formation, therefore limits the nanoparticle to travel to the site of target. That's also an area that people are trying to explore and which our group in Division of Surgery are working on. So apart from medical purposes, tissue engineered products are used in other purposes, such as biosensor, such as tissue engineered or synthetic meat called SMEAT. So the idea is that we will be able to tissue engineer those meat in the lab. So we will overcome a lot of the land usage because of the growing population, growing the meat eaters, and developing countries are more and more of those people are eating meat. So we want to come up with an alternative solution for that. So that's a part of medical purposes. Tissue engineered products are using in other fields, such as consumable products. So in terms of my research, I did talk about my area was looking at osteoclastogenesis, which is the osteoclast or bone resorption. Recently, we were able to coming up with understanding the intercellular pathway of a silicate-containing implant, which is a very important type of implant that people have used for lots of purposes, such as toothpaste. They use it in Sensodyne toothpaste to block the channel and enhances bone regeneration in your teeth. So we found that silicate was able to chelate with iron that affects reactive oxygen species pathway in the cells, which in order that would be able to affect osteoclastogenesis. By understanding that, we'll be able to come up with new implant material that be able to interact with the cells mechanisms specifically. So as I mentioned in our lab, we are focusing on tissue engineering and biomaterials. We have a lot of advanced characterization method, and we particularly specialize in bone tissue engineering, where my focus is on osteoclasts, but there are other group members looking at osteoblasts as well as bone formation. So we make the Europe best bone in our lab, which we are able to make the bone in 1 millimeter size. However, the issues for larger types of bone to be made is because of the vascularization limitation I spoke earlier. So if we can overcome this aspect, we might be able to make larger amount of bone that would be able to build bridging the defect site better. So we use different techniques such as Raman, TEM, as well as SEM, looking at different type of materials in order to inform us what kind of materials to develop, as well as characterize the materials' properties. So at year 1 and 2, you will have a lot of teaching sessions, and the teaching session depends on the format of the teaching session. There could be a small group teaching that we will interact with, medical innovation students specifically. Then we will have larger group of teaching that you might interact with the student from applied medical sciences or integrated medical sciences, which is the family or that governs the medical innovation enterprise. Georgia, have you had any bigger classes that's before, and what kind of interaction have you had in terms of the bigger size or smaller size? Can you share some points or shine some lights on this?
Yeah, so at least in first year, so you've got like the big classes, which are pretty much, I think most of the modules were in like very big classes in the Royal Free Hospital. And this was like not just MIE students, so these were students in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. It was a bit intimidating at the beginning, like so many people in a class, and it's a bit scary to ask questions. Um, but I think once people started feeling comfortable, if you asked a question, the lecturer was always more than happy to explain it, sometimes even like 4 or 5 times. No one was ever judged for asking questions. And even if people are too shy to ask it publicly, what a lot of students would do is we would go and you can ask the lecturer after the class, and they're usually very happy to stay afterwards and explain things. And even if need help and you can ask over email, they're usually super, super helpful. So yeah, it's intimidating, but it's not as intimidating as you would think. And now it's really normal. Like it feels like a normal class. And then the small group teachings, we had a lot of these were mainly in first year. Like we have smaller classes for the MIE modules. Um, and the small group teaching was so much fun. Amy, you were the lead for the small group teaching module for us, and these were always full of discussions. We had some really interesting debates. It was always a really fun class, and we did differential diagnosis as well, which was a lot. We had a lot of fun in those classes. It was super interactive. You'd be working as a group, trying to figure out the answer to a problem, or so like we'd be split in teams doing a debate over a controversial topic like animal testing. I remember that one really well. Um, but yeah, and then the MIE modules, we were, I think, around 30 or 40 students in a class. And these were also like really interactive. I think most of the modules are very interactive. The big ones are scarier to be interactive in, but yeah, you get used to it.
So how is the modules like for the School of Management? Do you have like bigger groups for those or
Oh,
depends?
in management, yeah. So we have the big classes, and then you also have seminars, and these seminars are like more problem based. So it would be, you have a case study, and you'd be analyzing like, I don't know. For the one that we just had, it was like, looking at IKEA. They tried to move to China, and it was unsuccessful, and we were looking at why this was unsuccessful. Things like that. Also super engaging in the seminars, and participation is really important, and it's not something that you feel pressure because it's a small class of like 20 students, and you get to know everyone there, so it becomes like a friendly environment. You see these people every week, so it's not hard to participate in. But yeah, the big classes for management, some lecturers like participation, some don't. It depends. Most of them do. This year, the one of them, he doesn't like participating in the lectures, but then participating in the seminars is like a big thing for him. So, yeah.
Do you get School of Management teaching at the Bloomsbury or at the Canary Wharf area?
So we're in Bloomsbury. Last year we were in Bloomsbury, and this year, I mean, I'm not sure about second term, but first term we were in Bloomsbury.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice to be on main campus.
Yeah. So if I'm not sure if the audience knows, so for the School of Management, they have this also their site. Sometimes they do their activities or events at the Canada Square One in Canary Wharf, which is a really vibrant business area where all the banks and consulting firms are, and that's also like an area if people want to collaborate or join the events. They also have entrepreneurship competitions over there. So yeah, so like you said, majority of lectures at the Bloomsbury, I think that's for the teaching aspect because they have a limited space in the Canada Square area. So in terms of interactive online learning, so some of the modules, they will provide those interactive learning, depends on the type. Some of them you can interact with the exercise online. Some of them you have to watch short videos, engage with it before your classes and quizzes after your classes. And also another aspect is about personal tutors. You get assigned to personal tutors at the beginning of your academic journey, and the personal tutor will stay with you over the time and when you're in the uni, and then they will be your support in terms of if you have any concerns related to modules or study, as well as they be your application referees or guiding for your development. So they are normally experts in their field as well, so you can interact with them. As I said, we learn from real-world teaching. Our department is actually based at the Royal Free, so we interact with surgeons, and some of them, they contribute to research projects where you can choose during your 3rd and 4th year. And then in terms of creativity, there's always a big, point that employer ask in terms of medtech innovation, in terms of out there business out there. People has to be creative in solving problems. So you, as Georgia I was talking about, you have problem-based learning for business cases. You have problem-based learning for clinical cases in your science subjects. That's you always want to come up with new ideas. You always want to discuss with people that using the skills of creativity is challenging the status quo. And then also that's, you test those ideas, you're refining it in your group as to reach the solution that then you can then discuss with the module lead on about a specific case you want to solve. And hype and hope is about critical thinking. On top of creativity, we need to have more evidence-based creativity. So therefore, we need to have the skill of critical thinking, such as reviewing the evidence out there, how those are supported. For example, in a lot of journals or in a lot of news media, you see articles about cures for MS, stem cell therapy for paralyzed people, for example, head transplant. All these areas we want to look at the primary research. And then that's very important for you to review the evidence, review the validity of those research in order for you to inform yourself whether this solution would be feasible or not. So we do use a lot of critical thinking over the years, such as on your 1st year, we will have critical thinking element in reviewing the technical feasibility of the startup company. On the 2nd year, you will have, I think we have a question on the chat. I don't know if we want to answer that afterwards or, oh, sorry, that's probably a typo. So on the 2nd year, you will have critical thinking in terms of writing your grant proposal, assessing your grant proposal. On the 3rd year, you have to coming up with your own business plan. So those are critical thinking, and there are aspects of how you can find out papers that got rejected or people are having debates about in different type of database, such as this one is called a retraction database, where people assess for aspects of the paper in terms of understanding how their conclusion is valid or not, looking at their results or data they provided. Okay, so in terms of the structure, as I mentioned, on year 1, you have a focus on human physiology, where you have 7 modules delving into human physiology, ranging from basic fundamental of physiology to cardiovascular disease to inflammation, as well as enzymatic reactions, understanding enzymes and digestive system. And then on year 2, you can choose your pathway, and you have 2 optional modules to choose. You can choose either more business focus or more science focus, as well as you have MIE2, where you critically assess grant proposal, which is the proposal where people at the early stage of their technology, they want to apply for funding in the government. On the 3rd year, you're coming up with your own business plan. On 4th year, you have advanced research project as well as consultancy project, where you work as with a real company for 300 hours, gaining those experiences, which are really good for your development and bridging the gap between academia and the industry, which is always a valuable aspect for your CV as well as for your employer in the future. Developing communication skills, there's a lot of presentation during your course, and different types of presentations such as Dragon's Den type of pitch, presentation for your case studies, presentation for debate. There's always space for you to talk about different subject areas, and then you need to think about how you design those medical communication. There's also a UCL blog system you can use where students are freely to use this WordPress blogging system to showcase their developmental journey. Do we have a question? I think I can see the chat coming up. I don't know if we have a question now.
This is it's Kate letting us know that we have 15 minutes until the end of the event.
Okay, right. Thank you, Kate. So there's a big element of competition learning as well. So we hosted challenges with specific healthcare thing. And then in terms of interactive learning, as I mentioned before. And then in terms of your timetable, which I'm gonna probably skip through quite quickly because I noticed we only have 15 minutes. So I already talked about in the flow chart where you're focusing on more physiology. On your first year, you only have one medical innovation enterprise where you have real company to showcase and you need to produce an analytical report. On your second year, you're more diverted to optional modules, depends on the route you want to choose. You also have modules such as tissue engineering, nanomedicine, and then also medical innovation enterprise 2, where you assess patent as well as grant. On the third year, where you have further elective modules as well as optional modules, as well as a research project that's in the specific area of science you want to do. And that's also very important skills in terms of critical analysis, problem solving, and a part of your careers building. On your fourth year, you have this consultancy project where you engage with the industry partners. So at a wider community over years of your medical innovation enterprise, you would be able to interact with incubators in London as well as wider UK aspect. There's a lot of incubators. UCL has its own incubator called UCL Hatchery, where students be able to come up with their ideas. If they get selected, they'll be able to use their office areas over there, and then they help you to incubate your business. And then in terms of careers, people ended up into a diverse career pathway, such as we have a lot of graduate went into life science consultancy, as well as pharma company, AstraZeneca, GSK, as well as working in entrepreneurial aspect. So we had a candidate that previously were able to pitch in the parliament, and then as well as working in investment, in terms of tech transfer and pharma company, graduate scheme in pharma company, for example. So we have a page that's designated for MRE careers. That student, if you want to, explore in a particular aspect, you feel free to do that. And that's provided to the students, and there are resources on different aspects. Just to showcase you with area that our graduate went into, and those are from life science consultancy. We have quite a few of those, and then investment businesses. So this degree, providing you with aspect in terms of translational sciences as well as business, so that you can tailor it according to your liking. In terms of the entry level, is AAA, and then we have contextual offer, which is BBC. And then for IB, we're looking at 38 points. And for a contextual offer is 30. So if you have more questions on this, we're happy to answer that. And then that's everything for me. I'm sorry I rushed through quite quickly on the last few slides, but if there's any question you have, please feel free to let me know. Thank you so much.
You can also ask anything about like student experience or things like that, which I can answer if you like. I mean, in the meantime, I can tell you a bit about, how I've been finding UCL. So I'm now in my third year. So in first year, I stayed in student accommodation. I was in Ramsey Hall, which is a catered accommodation. It was a super sociable place, that's where I made quite a few of my close friends. Yeah, I really enjoyed student halls. It was really fast paced, and I mean, the it wasn't like the cleanest place, but it was fun, and there was always something going on. I really enjoyed it there. Um, and then, oh, one thing that I would say, so in my first year, I didn't join any societies because, Ramsey had a lot going on. And I was thinking, it's fine. I have so much at Ramsey. I don't need to join any societies. But then in second year, so I moved into a flat with some friends, and I was like, okay, I'll, branch out. And I joined some societies, and that's where I made some of my best memories. I joined snow sports and I joined tennis, and it's honestly been so much fun. There's a question though, let's see. Um, do you think UCL still has that sociable and inclusive environment, even if it's not a campus uni? Definitely. So it's super sociable. So every Wednesday there's sports night, which is you go with your sports society, and you usually go to the UCL bar or a pub around campus, or sometimes they have like a curry night where you go and you all eat curries and play games. And then you go to Scala afterwards, which is a club, and it's like you'd go with your sports society and you meet all of the other UCL students there, and it's just a UCL event. It's really fun. I really enjoy that. And it is really inclusive. I think I mean, I'm an international student, and everyone has been super friendly. There are loads of international students at UCL as well, and yeah, and I don't think it being not a campus uni makes such a big difference because although London is a big place, since most of our lectures are in the same area, you always bump into people, It's like easy to make friends if you just put yourself out there a bit, and everyone's in the same place. Although it's a bit scary, it just takes that like extra step, knowing that everyone is feeling just as scared as you. And yeah, once you just put yourself out there a bit, you'd be surprised how easily things just start happening. There's another question. Do you take the EPQ into account during the application process if it is in a topic that is related to the degree? I did mine on AI in medical diagnostics and healthcare. I don't know what an EPQ is. Um,
It's a extended qualification, isn't it, on top of your A level? Is that right? I think this is a question we need to ask for admission for it. So I think it's something, yeah, if you could email us about it, we can double check for you. Okay, thank you.
But yeah, besides the sports night on Wednesdays, UCL does hold like quite a few events. And there's the Freshers Week events in the first week in Freshers Week. And those are really fun. And you have the Freshers Fair where you get to go around and see all the societies, and you get to do taster sessions. So you get to join societies for free, and there's a whole range. So you're bound to find people that you'll click with because there's all these different sports societies, and then you've got all these different creative societies, art and drama, musical theatre. Um, yeah, and then you have like more niche interests. There's also cultural societies. So you like if you are an international student and you feel a bit homesick, you just want to be surrounded by or speak your own language for once in a while, you can join your cultural society. Um, and yeah, and there's a whole range of, and everyone is super friendly. I mean, at least from my experience, everyone is open to making friends, and yeah. Um, oh, there's a food market on Thursdays. The food is really good. It's like my favorite thing. Okay, question. How is your experience as an international student in London in terms of living expenses? Okay, so yeah, living expenses are quite a lot. Living in London is quite expensive. I find that for me, if I bring food with me to uni, like it turns out to be cheaper that way. Um, and yeah, I mean, also if when it comes to accommodation and a flat, the further out you stay, the cheaper it will tend to be. Um, then obviously there's transport and things like that, and bills can be in your own control more or less. Um, but yeah, so yeah, the expenses can be a lot. But if you plan well, then you can work your way around it. Just, yeah, bring your own food. Don't, if you're gonna eat out, okay, this market on Thursdays, the food's really good, but it's around £10 for the average meal there. Then there's also the UCL student shop, which has better prices, and there's the UCL student cafes, so you can get like discounted coffees and snacks and things like that. So there's a cafe, the Print Room Cafe. A wrap from there is £3.90, or even, and you can go from like £2.50 to £3.90. So there's definitely cheaper options. Yeah, so it just takes a bit of planning, but you work around it, you know. Yeah. If anyone else has any other questions about, so I'm in my third year, I'm doing my research project. I can talk a bit about that if you want. So we only really just started the process. But we basically were given a list of different projects in the modules that we were chosen. They also asked if we wanted to see projects in a certain topic or area. And but if you want, you can also do a project that you came up with yourself. So I have some friends who did that. And if you don't like any of the projects that are on the list, they're also super helpful because they want everyone to have a project that you enjoy, which is like it's really nice because you want a project that you enjoy. And I personally didn't like anything on the original list. And the research module lead, she was super, super helpful, put me in contact with lots of different people, gave me loads of options, even extended my deadline by like a week and a half for when I had to pick, because I'm really indecisive. So it took me a while to choose. But yeah, it seems really daunting, but and I was really nervous. But now that I'm there, it feels a bit less, like they're really guiding us very well. And yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, does anyone have any last questions before we end the event? Anything at all from student experience to academic experience, exams, things like that. I mean, I'm in my third year now, so at least first year, I can tell you all about it if you want, and second year too. Um, okay. Um, Okay, perfect. So I think that sums up then, and this will be the end. So we'll just leave it here. Um, so we were just hoping that you could maybe provide us with some feedback about today's session by filling out our survey. This will display in your browser after the after the event, and it would be really greatly appreciated. And we'd also just like to thank you so much for all of your comments and questions, and also a really big thank you to Amy Lee for an excellent session. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone, for joining. Take care. All the best.